First person I'd like to introduce to you here is our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Ruth, and he'll welcome you to our Google Leadership Symposium.
Thanks, Chris. Just a brief welcome. We appreciate you taking the time to come in and be with us today. We're very excited to have you here. We have a full day planned, and I want to thank all the people from our district that made this happen. Dr. Gerhardt, our Assistant Superintendent, our two Chris's over here, Chris McCaffrey and Chris Trickett, who are heavily involved in technology, and our high school principal, George Fiore. There are many others, but we're very excited about what we have going on here at Wilson. Next year, we're going to be implementing a full one-on-one initiative from 9th grade through 12th grade, and we're a fairly large high school. We graduate anywhere between 450 and 500 students a year, so it's a pretty massive undertaking. And what we're finding is, as well as we plan and everything that we do, things change so fast. So it's just a matter of being okay with that and being agile and making these changes when we find out there's something we want to tweak, make sure that we get after it, because it's a very good thing to do and it keeps us at the leading edge of education and instruction. I also want to thank Stephen from Google. He's been instrumental in helping getting this set up, and Google's been great to work with. So we hope you have a fantastic day today. Thanks for coming, and if we can help you in any way, please let us know. Have a great day.
Good morning, everyone. As Dr. Ruth said, we're very happy that you could be here today to share in our learning. We have many different things scheduled for all of you today, including the opening keynote session, some breakout sessions later on this morning, and then the day will culminate with student tours, classroom tours for about an hour and 20 minutes, and then a student and teacher panel right back here to finish out our day. I also would like to introduce Stephen real quickly. Dr. Ruth did just take care of that for me, but he's kind of the Google guru who's been helping our school, as well as many other schools in this region, make the digital transition into the Google ecosystem, and just supporting us with everything that we need for the event. He also sponsored the food for today and provided all the Chromebooks back along the side of the library for all of you to check out during our breaks that we have. A couple other special guests that we'd like to welcome today. Kurt Paccio from Northampton School District is here somewhere. Kurt. He will be helping lead the technology director breakout session that will begin at 11 o'clock. We thank him for his effort in planning for the presentation and for coming down and sharing his knowledge with us today. Rich Kiker, who is the director of online learning at Palisades School District, will be here shortly. He's also the #1 Google certified trainer in the country. He's worked with a lot of school districts. I'm sure he's worked with many of yours to help design our PD and implement our PD with our staff. A couple people that were already introduced. We had to add some lighter photos here to kind of get us in the mood of the Google environment. As you can tell by Stephen, he's not quite dressed the same as the rest of us.
Should have worn a t-shirt.
Yeah, we didn't know. We thought maybe shorts and flip-flops would be acceptable. So all the folks that you'll have a chance to interact with today, you'll have access to this presentation, which we're going to show you in a second. So we put a lot of things on here that you can go back to and reference later on throughout the day. Of course, Wilson in the middle. Some of your tour guides later on, all their pictures are on here. I'm going to very quickly introduce them just so you can kind of put a name to the face and explain how you're going to locate them later. Frank Reese, if you can put your hand up. Frank's right up here. Middle school assistant principal at West Middle School. Dean Damiani, I'm not so sure he's here yet. He's actually over in the office taking care of some things. Laura Whitman, high school assistant principal in the back in the red shirt. Matt Bender, high school assistant principal in the back in the suit. Kyle Weatherhold, Wilson West principal. Shelley Campbell. Shelley Campbell's in the back. She's our gifted teacher, also a world language instructor. Steve Burnham, Southern Middle School principal. Jeff Ebert in the back. And then two people from our technology department, part of what makes our team so great. Deb Motes, our technology operations manager, and Ryan Fitterling. Two other ladies that you met coming in, Lucy Herzog and Linda Jones, did a lot of work in preparation for the registration and some of the communication that was sent out to you. A couple things real quickly about your name tag before I throw it over to Chris. If you take a look at your name tag, obviously on the front you have the information that is pertinent or special to you. On the back of your name tag is information that you're going to need throughout the day. Number one is the URL that we're going to use to access all of the information that we'll be sharing. The information that you're going to hear this morning, all of the breakout sessions, all of the PowerPoints, all the instructional activities that you're going to see in the classes, everything is linked to the website, which Chris is going to show you. There's a QR code on the back for those of you that are risk takers this morning and feeling a little bit more savvy. You can scan that with your cell phone or device and go right out to the URL, or you can just simply type in the URL that's outlined in blue. Below that, we have a wireless access that was created for you specifically for this day. So this will give you the credentials that you need to access that. And if for any reason you would run into a filter, if you need to do some work, I know we're all very busy people and the time may come when you need to do something that we don't allow you to do in the school, the filter override is on here as well. So if you need help with any of those things, if you need help with any of those things, I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room that can assist you, but please do keep this on all day as we do our tours and we go to our different sessions. This will prevent you from being attacked by our security guards. So now I'll throw it back over to Chris McCaffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Trickett. He's our new tech director. He stepped in the job 2 weeks ago?
A couple weeks.
So his hair's been on fire since then. He's done a great job with it. Just make sure I'm keeping with the slides. I just want to take you out to the site so you understand what is available to you. Many of you probably already looked at it before, so I'm not going to take too much time. Obviously, the home there, the agenda. If you'd like to take a closer look at what's going on today, you can click there. Everything, like we said, everything we're going to share is either linked in these presentations or linked on this site. So each one of these presentations through the breakout sessions later on are all embedded on this site with all the resources available to you. For instance, on the professional development curriculum design presentation, I am sharing everything that I ever created for this one-to-one initiative. All the documents, the spreadsheets, everything that I've done with our action committee, all is going to be linked from there. So please feel to steal it because I stole it from somewhere else. The classroom tours, maybe you're on the tour and you're thinking, oh man, I remember seeing that one teacher in that social studies classroom. What tool did he use? Or I don't really remember it. Well, everything they've done for today, not everything, but the basics of their lesson is also linked here for you to access at a later date too as well, if you'd like. We also are videotaping this session as well as we'll videotape all the breakout sessions. So maybe, sorry, not video, whatever. And in the leadership session, say you go to that, but you wanted to really see the PD session, you'll be able to see that archive later on this site as well. So that'll also be linked here as well. I do want to direct you to the questions. This is called Google Moderator. The questions that are listed there already actually came from you as registrants to this symposium. I kind of took your questions and kind of summarized them as best I could and put them in here. I was intending to answer all these questions before this happened, but at 1:30 last night I said that's enough and I'll do that later. So if your questions are not answered, they will be answered. If they still are not answered, ask again and we will answer those. That is one of our themes today. We do not want you to leave here without any questions answered. If we can't answer them, then that's just where we're at and we'll try to all come to a conclusion as best we can. So that's the questions tab. The gallery is a nice place to kind of peruse to as well. What you'll see is another overriding theme of this whole symposium is we're not saying we're doing this the best by any means. We gave out Chromebooks a month ago and I've had like 2 days of school since then. This is just where we are in this process. We have a lot of great teachers in our district doing a lot of great things with technology, without technology. I try to highlight a lot of the pockets that are going on in our district, and our theme here is to kind of make that prevalent throughout the district and not just pockets of good instructional technology integration. So a lot of resources there you can take a look at too as well as really highlighting our iSTEM program. We're really proud of this program. You'll hear more about that throughout the day too as well. Obviously directions and contact us too as well. At the end of the day, we'll have our closing feedback form. We really appreciate that feedback from you too as well. We'll talk more about that. Do we have any questions on the Google site that we put together for today? Hopefully you find it useful. Okay, the other thing we'd like to mention, and this was something that we put together probably over the past few weeks and it's still kind of coming together. It was going to be at the end of the summer, but with the pushback of school and snow days and all that type of stuff, we decided to move this to August. And we're basically having a Google Summit. just like this symposium, we're kind of thinking of this symposium to be something that can grow into something bigger next year to continue all of our growth in this area to help us all out. Instead of working like I used to work in Algebra 2 classroom across the hallway from the other Algebra 2 classroom, and our collaboration was, where you at? That was our collaboration. I feel the same way about this type of stuff. We all need to learn from each other. So we hope that this grows. The same idea is going to go for our excuse me, Google Summit. And this is an opportunity to, this is for leadership. This is to discuss ideas to change and help us all grow in this area. The Google Summit is really for the teacher and the classroom instruction and how we can help them change. So this will be a 2-day event for teachers centered on 21st century learning. Here it'll be at Wilson throughout the whole campus. This is also linked in the presentation. There's a short URL. We really want to do this differently though too. We want to invite your students from your districts here too as well. Looking at technology teams, student technology teams to develop them. Looking at how the students make healthy decisions with technology. We grouped with the Council on Chemical Abuse, and they came in and helped us with our 9th graders with that Chromebook initiative to talk about digital footprint and social media and appropriate use of technology. So that would be a session for students too as well as parents. We have to bring parents up to speed. What does it mean to be a 21st century parent? That's a tough question for answer, even for myself, who is inundated with technology and understand it a lot more deeply than most of our parents do in our district. Teachers, obviously, how can we increase the use of engagement, creativity, innovation in our classrooms? And then administrators, how can we help our teachers grow in this area? So that's the purpose of that summit in August, and the partnership that we're working with through Google and some others. We're looking to have anyone that registered for the symposium would get a discount for registering for that event for any teacher in your school district too as well. So that's a really fantastic opportunity. That's going to be a great time come August. And there's the shortened URL there again. But again, this is linked on the symposium website, so you can click to get to that date saver. That date saver also has an interest form, but I'll just put you on an email list, so if you wanted to get updates. But we'll be pushing out that information through this symposium email list too as well. Okay, so without further ado, this is the Google Leadership Symposium. So we're going to have Stephen come up and talk to you a little bit about what Google has done for us, as well as what it has done for many districts, and what it's trying to do in education. So Stephen, thank you.
So hi everybody, my name is Stephen Fang. I'm a regional manager at Google for Education. Been with Google for about 4 years, and just thought I'd briefly explain how Google got involved in education, what we're thinking about in education, how we came up with our products. Like Chris said, we want this day to be as interactive as possible for you to really learn what Google's doing. So at any point, if you guys have questions, please come find me afterwards. I'm going to be here the whole day. So let me start with just a quick video that's really going to kickstart our conversation. So just starting off, I think part of what we're thinking about Google for Education is that it's this 10x thinking. How do we make improvements to education, not just trying to improve test scores a little bit or make technology faster or give everybody devices, but how do we radically change the way technology is used in classrooms? How do we radically change the way technology is deployed in classrooms, used by teachers, used by students, interacts with parents? How do we just change the whole fundamental model? And a lot of you did pre-work, and I read all of your answers. And a common theme, or there are a few common themes. So one is we need to do this now. Right? If we wait any longer, it's already too late. We're already 14 years into the next century. Right? And we keep talking about 21st century skills, but we're already 14% of the way there. So this is something we need to do now. And the second thing that I heard a lot is if we don't do this, we're failing our students. Students are not getting the best technology. They're not getting the best access, the best information, and though they may not be getting it in your district, they are going to get it somewhere else. Right? They are going to be able to find it online, they have access to the internet. And by not moving forward, and by not trying, and by not doing all these great things, it is a disadvantage to your students. So that's really kind of where we're starting from. Doing this 10x thinking, trying to solve huge problems. So once again, one just overall thought and I'd love for you guys to keep throughout the day is like, how do you do a 10x thinking in your school district, in your classroom? It's not the same as sending someone to the moon, but everybody in every stage of their workplace can do something radically different, not just trying to make small incremental improvements. Does anyone know what this is? Does anyone see this actually? This is the first Google homepage. This is what Google used to look like, and Google hasn't even been around that long. But this is the first Google homepage. And when we were thinking about 10x, it's not just about self-driving cars, right? Even for us, 10x isn't making about Google.com search faster. Right? If you make it faster, you maybe find things a few seconds earlier. But that's not really changed the way you interact with information, right? So what we came up with was Google Now. Right? Google Now is 10x thinking. It predicts the questions you ask based on information you have before, based on questions other people have asked, and hopefully will make your searches more intuitive. Right? Not just faster, but a completely different way of searching for information. And we've been talking to a lot of school districts, and we fundamentally think that education is changing. The old model of education was 20th century, where the thing that was fixed was time. Right? Everybody went to school for a certain amount of time, but what you learned was different. Right? That's why you would take tests in to figure out where the students were. But in the 21st century, what we're seeing school districts do is the time is no longer fixed, the learning is fixed. Right? So you can be learning at home, you can be doing customized tests, you can do all these things because you have the same resource and technology at home. But what should be fixed is how much you learn. Well, the exact standards that you learn, everybody should be leaving that grade with the same standards. So learning is the constant and time is the variable. Right? If it doesn't take you as long to learn a subject, you shouldn't have to spend the same amount of time as everybody else. And those are kind of different concepts that are changing that we're seeing schools wrestle with. And so why is this important? Why is it important to change the way things are done now? And we think it comes down to a few different things. One, student engagement. Has anyone seen this before? So this is like an Amazon link, right? And this is what you probably would see from one of your students. Right? Students are changing. They're not learning how to use technology. They're born into technology. The first thing they do is they look at their smartphones. How many of you, the first thing you do when you wake up is you look at your smartphone? Or like look at some sort of computer, check your email, see a lot of nods. But I think that's even for us, it's something that we had to learn, right? You remember a time when we didn't do that. But for students, they don't know a time the internet didn't exist. They don't know a time the iPhone didn't exist. The iPhone or the smartphone you have in your pocket is the oldest technology they're ever going to use. They're not moving backwards. They're not going to Atari or a Commodore or anything like that. They're only moving forward. This is a bus in New York City where in New York City, a lot of public schools don't allow you to bring smartphones into the classroom. You can't bring a smartphone into the school. So this entrepreneur thought of a great way where he has this bus outside public schools and students check in their phone. It costs like $1 a day. They check in their phone, and then at the end of the day, they go check out their phone. And think about that. Students don't get very much money, typically, but they're willing to spend their money to check in their phone because why? They want their device as soon as class ends, right? They want to be connected as soon as they possibly can, because nowhere else besides school are they not connected, right? At home they're connected. When they go anywhere, they're connected. Even I find myself, when I'm sitting somewhere without internet, I'm like bored. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do without my smartphone because I'm so plugged into how technology works. So they have this expectation that any place, any device, any time, they should be able to access information. They should be able to get exactly what they want. And I think part of the reason why this is so important is because we're preparing students for jobs. Not only just jobs, but for the future. Even looking kind of at Google or my job didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Even 2 or 3 years ago, Chromebooks didn't exist. Right? So jobs of the future are going to be radically different than they are today. Even the idea of collaboration, working across functions, time, globally, these are all things that are pushing people forward, pushing people to the future. There's a study that 60% of students will work in jobs that do not exist yet. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And if you look at just the whole internet industry in Silicon Valley, those things didn't exist 10, 20 years ago. These are all new things that are happening. And that's why really focusing on 21st century skills is really important. Because there are going to be new devices. Devices aren't going to be what holds your students together. Teaching your students how to use specific devices isn't going to get them to the next level. Have people seen Google Glass? Right? One day, that might just be the device everybody has. You might no longer have these keyboards. You'll just have Google Glass, and you'll just be typing in the air. The device is not going to be the important part anymore. It's once you get that information, what are you going to do with it? Right? You have access to Google.com. You can find any fact now. But what are you going to do with it? Those are the skills that we really think are important to teach students. Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving. No matter what era, no matter where you are, these are the skills that are going to be important. Analyzing and making sense of information. Right? Going back to the old model was the teacher would be standing in the front of the classroom telling students, this is what happened in the 17th century, 18th century, and what would the teacher do if they didn't know the answer? Go look it up in a library, or possibly make it up. Right? And the student would have no way of knowing if the teacher was telling the truth or not. Right? The student would just accept it. But that's not true anymore. Now a student could look at their smartphone and be like, no, you're wrong. That's not true, that's not what happened. Or they can find different points of view for things that happened. And that's why I think really that landscape is shifting. It's not just teachers in the front of the room teaching students, but teachers and students together, working collaboratively, guiding the student to the answers, guiding the student to understanding how to analyze information. And part of it is increasing collaboration. This is Google Docs, if people haven't talked about this before, and we can go through this later. So the larger question is, why does this all fail? If we all agree that technology is important and students are moving this way, why does it fail? And I think it fails for a few different reasons. Lack of a culture change, so trying to, once again, fundamentally change the way we're thinking about education. Being too focused on the devices, so teaching how to specifically use operating systems, specifically use how devices, really being focused on this is the future of what we're going to do when devices are constantly changing. Focus on the individual, so going back to the old mentality of individualized, just me doing my own thing. And then I think the last thing is really important. It's too expensive. Is anyone going to raise their hand and say, I have too much budget, right? I have too much money, I don't know what to do with it? Right? No one has that problem. Everybody's problem is there's not enough resources. And that's kind of how we came up with our pillars for what we're thinking about in education. We think about it in kind of four main pillars: empowerment, choice, teamwork, and scaling. And the first one's empowerment. We're not simply looking to create devices or things that are textbook replacements, called $1,000 pencils. We're not simply trying to replace older ways of doing things with simply a newer, faster way of doing things. If you're taking an old textbook and just replacing it with a tablet that runs the same kind of e-textbook, that's not really getting the most benefit. We're thinking about moving things from the bottom of the taxonomy, which is just remembering, to the top, to creating, to doing things that you couldn't do before without technology, like the Hangout we just did. Right? That's something that can only be achieved through technology. Whereas doing an e-reader, you can still use paper for that. And like I said, it requires a shift in culture. The flow of information no longer, once again, going from the teacher to the student, but it's the teacher, student, and that knowledge. Being able to find that information on the internet, being able to access information. It's a whole web now, and not just a linear model. The second thing is choice. Like I said before, we're really not focusing on the specific device. And even if you look at the Chromebooks aren't meant for you to be tied into one specific Chromebook. I can pick up any device, any Chromebook, any Android tablet, any iPhone, and I'll have access to my information. This isn't even my device. I switch out devices all the time. Because the device doesn't time me down. Right? My information is available on the cloud, and no matter where I am, I can access that. And think about the student. If a student is using a web platform, they no longer can only be learning at school. Right? When the teacher is done teaching, they can go home and they can still review the materials. They can watch videos. They can do Khan Academy. Once again, that time is now the variable, but they can spend as much time as they need to learn. This is a picture of, kind of once again, what technology can do. This is a picture of Le Grand Jacques by Jacques Chirac. And this image is in Chicago. And traditionally, without technology, you would have to travel to Chicago to see it, or even possibly have a photo of it. But because of the way technology is moving, we've actually scanned images of our projects throughout the world. And what you can do now is you can actually move into it. You can scan into it. So instead of just talking about pointillism, you can actually see this is pointillism. You're taking technology and radically transforming the way students are engaging with it. Right? The third pillar is teamwork. Right? Even in kind of the day-to-day that I work, I can't imagine where I would just create a presentation or create a document and submit it to my manager and say, hey, I'm done. At least in my kind of the way we work, we don't work that way anymore. Everything is done collaboratively. It takes input from many different team members, people across the globe to complete one project. Yet if you had a student who was sitting there collaborating with other students, what would you call that? Cheating, right? That'd be cheating, they'd be expelled or fired for it. But when they get into the workplace, that's all we do. All we do is collaborate. All we do is work with our coworkers. All we do is work collaboratively on projects. And that's true for college as well. So as we're preparing students for the future, once again, it requires a radical rethinking of what we're doing in education right now. And the last is scale, especially kind of from the technology side. Traditionally, it's been very, very hard to deploy technology. You would have to rewipe every device, set up different servers, give different account names for everything. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and sometimes it's just not worth it. So as we come up with solutions, and as we focus on different things we offer in education, we want to make it really easy. Whether you're deploying 4 devices or 4,000 devices, it should be the same process. You should be able to access it from one place. And that's how we came up with what we're actually offering in schools. So there's a platform, which is Apps for Education. How many schools are using Apps for Education right now? Everybody knows. So it's free, communication, collaboration, you have free tools. The second thing on top of that platform are the devices. So once you have the platform, once you have the user logins, you can have devices, whether those be tablets or Chromebooks or other devices. The devices allow you to get to the last point, which is the most important piece, which is content. Getting users to their content is what we're really trying to focus on. We want the technology to be easy to deploy, but fade in the background. Right? It shouldn't be the focus of what your students are looking to do. They should really be trying to get to their content. Del Mar is a school district that we work with, and one way that they think about technology, we think is really crucial, is they didn't think first, like, what are we going to deploy? Right? They didn't start off with, we're going to do a one-to-one program and how are we going to do it. They reversed it. They're starting from the curriculum. Right? What are we trying to achieve with technology? What are we trying to achieve with our classroom? What are we trying to achieve with any project that we do? And it came up with, this is what's important to Del Mar. Writing process, communication, collaboration. It's about creating more teacher-student touches. So from there, then they thought about what are we going to do? So this is from there they thought about, okay, we're going to deploy Google Docs. We're going to do collaboration through Google Docs, and then Chromebook is the best device for us. And then that might not be true for you. You may decide Chromebooks aren't the best device for you. But we think focusing on end goal, focusing on where you want your students to be, that's where we think you should start in all those technology thinking projects. We do think, however, that Chromebooks make a lot of sense. They have a long battery life. It's easy to log in. There's no viruses or spyware. And you guys can play with them. There are a bunch of them in the back. But once again, it's not the focus isn't the device. Right? You may walk away deciding Chromebooks aren't for you. And that's okay. We just want to make sure that you're thinking about different ways to impact your classroom with technology. We also offer an administrative console. So the admin console makes it easy to push out all the policies from one control panel. You can blacklist, whitelist, choose different user profiles. If you're doing testing, you can do testing from the control panel. Everything is done from one control panel. And there are lots of different Chromebooks. So not just these 5, but this one's actually, I have a Toshiba in the back. Samsung just released a new one. There's also Dell. So more and more manufacturers are coming up with Chromebooks because school districts are really adopting them. We also offer tablets. So if you feel like a tablet is a better fit for your school district, there are tablets as well. They operate in a very similar way. There's an Android control panel. There's a Play for Education store. Just talking a little bit about the Play for Education store. So these are different tablets. There's a 10-inch coming out. So the Play for Education store actually has curated content from educators, making it really easy to find third-party apps. And then from there, it's really easy to push them out. And I can showcase a little. Well, I'll showcase it later, but come find me later and I can walk you guys through the Play for Education store. So just going back to kind of the idea of 10x. Going back to the idea of 10x and what are some of the things that Google is thinking about 10x. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to play this video. But some of the different things we are thinking about are self-driving cars. Who heard of that? Self-driving cars. Has anyone heard of Project Loon? Is that what that is? So get this. It's kind of crazy. Get this. We are creating these large hot air balloons that we're sending into the sky, twice the height of how high an airplane flies. And what it's going to do, it's going to beam down internet. So that in the future, no matter where you are, you will have internet. You'll just have this like little dongle connect to your computer, and it'll literally beam down internet. Working with a lot of different developing nations on working on this project, because of just how powerful the internet is. Right? Once you have access to internet, you have access to the world's information. You have access to the best scientific research on no matter what you want to do, whether that be farming or engineering, agriculture, it doesn't matter. Right? But having access to the internet radically changes lives. And the thing is, like, your students have access to the internet. Like, your classrooms have access to the internet. Your schools have access to the internet. The larger question is, like, what are you doing with it? You already have access to the best possible teaching resource. Yet, a lot of school districts I work with aren't really sure what to do with it. They're not really sure how to implement that in a 10x way. And that's really what I'm challenging with you guys today. Collaborating with each other, working with other school districts, really thinking about how can we implement 10x in education. Thanks for your time. Once again, I'm going to be here afterwards if you guys have any questions, and I'll be here throughout the day. Really excited to have everybody here, and really excited to work with you guys and see really how this all takes off. And that's amazing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Stephen, and just to kind of reiterate his points there too as well, and that's the purpose of this. Let's get that out into classroom at Wilson, communicating with the out into classroom in Muhlenberg, and working on things, and then go beyond that too as well. Next up, then we have Dr. Steve Gerhardt, our assistant superintendent, and he's just going to Google it.
Well, again, I want to extend my welcome to everybody to be here. We're really excited to be putting on this event and nervous at the same time. There's a lot of different ideas that came out of Steve's presentation that I hope you will see run through today. I think one of those was the comment of, we don't know how to get there yet. And that's the piece, that we're still working through this. We're still learning. And nowhere in our beginning vision did we have this day and this event as part of our vision. And so I think it does speak a little bit to how we're going down this path, this journey that hopefully you are on right now and will continue to be on. And I'm just waiting for Chris to give you some of my notes here. Yeah. But when we were preparing this morning's presentation, as Stephen said, our presentation was prepared collaboratively. It was myself, Chris McCaffrey, George Peoria High School principal, and Chris Trickett. And we were working on this presentation together. And I think what's important is, while the agenda has my name listed as the keynote, I said I don't want to be up here alone. I want each one of us to take a piece of this keynote. So while I'm going to talk about some introductory pieces, I am then going to turn it over to George and then Crisscross, I like to call them Crisscross, the two Chris's, to then share their pieces as well. And hopefully each one of our snippets will give you a little bit of an introduction of what we can dive into further in the various breakout sessions that we have. So the purpose of saying just Google it, when I was thinking about preparing this presentation, I wanted to make sure, and we talked, that we were providing information or providing things in our speech that were not things that you could just Google, right? We don't want that happening in our classrooms. We don't want the time spent in classrooms where students could just get what they're getting by just Googling it. So as we're prepared this session as well as the rest of the day, we really wanted to make sure that we were providing various insights, perspective, what some of our lessons were. When we looked at some examples of other Google Leadership Symposiums, it was meant to have that school district or school share what their experience currently is. And I think that's a big piece that we want to get out today. This is about sharing. We want to learn from you guys. We want to develop this community to be a lot larger than it is now in this work. And Chris and others have done a great job of putting a lot of information on the site for you to reference. But I want to, and sorry Stephen for saying this, but I want you to think a little bit about this symposium. And if you are on that path to really scaling up your technology integration in your classrooms, I want you to think about this symposium being your last. And what I mean by that is we were, that was maybe 2 years ago, we were starting our path to take a look at what we wanted to do. One-to-one, technology integration, realizing that we really needed to ramp it up and get moving. And we started doing the conference tours. Oh, there's this conference. And you could be out every day at a conference. And so we went as far south as South Carolina to visit a school district. And so there was this one particular conference, and it was myself, George Fiore, our technology director, and Chris McCaffrey. And we did we were down, it was Philadelphia, I forget the name of the conference. And we were doing, and we'll know, in the breakout sessions, you sit where you sit, last row. So if it's not a good breakout session, you kind of bail out and go to the next one. And what we were finding in our breakout sessions is all of us were going to separate breakout sessions within 10 minutes, coming back out. And the reason for that is, well, we all sort of looked at each other and just said, what are we chasing? What is it? What holy grail do we think we're going to find? And I think it was at that moment that we kind of recognized that I think we're not giving ourselves enough credit for the collective intelligence that we have back in our district to get this work started. And it was one of many catalyst moments that we had to realize that we just need to get back, roll up our sleeves, and get it done. And so my challenge, to this group here is that, from the learning, hopefully that you gathered today, we're all going back to our different sites and we're rolling up our sleeves and just getting it done, and certainly building, using the collaborative power of our networks to continue our learning. So I also want to communicate that we're presenting this from a position of humility. We're not presenting it from that we have all the answers, but this is just sharing of here we are in our journey and here's where we're going. So to talk a little bit about us as a district, some might be in this county and be familiar with Wilson, others might be from outside the county. To just give you a little bit of an idea of our district, we're about 5,900 students. With professional staff and support staff combined, close to about 1,000 employees. We have I'm very proud of the strong community support that we have in the district. And I use the I am a bulldog piece because when I started here 5 years ago, I remember distinctly being at new teacher induction, and it was right at the time that I had started, and people were introducing themselves. And in the introductions, people were, saying in introductions, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do, and I'm a bulldog. And it just kept going down the line. It was really strong. You could see in my first introductions how strong the community support was and how strong how much pride people had in their district. So that's been certainly a major contributor to the work that we do in our district, knowing that we have such strong support. I hope I'm not proven wrong, but I also remember, being in the hallways one of the first days that I was here and seeing how much Wilson gear kids were wearing. And I remember saying to a principal at the time, like, "Is it Spirit Day today?" Like, no, it's not. And so hopefully you will see too, the pride that our students have in our school. I think also added to it is we're working really hard in our district, and specifically what you'll see here today in our high school, to build, we talk about culture, but to build a culture where it's cool to be smart. And that's an important piece in our work with our teachers and with our students, is to constantly think about what we're doing day in, day out to make sure we have a strong academic culture where we are emphasizing that it is cool to be smart. We do have some demographic shifts that some of you may be having. We do believe as a district that we should be a school of choice. So we do have students families that move into our district, and what we say to keep our culture strong, we say, okay, you've changed your geography, but now you need to change your attitude, and this is the academic culture and the expectations that we have. We have been blessed with a somewhat stable budget experience relative to some others. We understand that. But as Stephen said, we still have limited means. And we have gone into this work taking a look at how do we work within our existing resources. During my 5 years here, we have kept all the money, the budget that we have used for our annual expenses has been flat for the 5 years that I've been here. So we have been rethinking about how we use our existing resources instead of buying textbooks, instead of buying some of those traditional instructional resources, changing our mindset and looking at using our financial resources to get this work done. And lastly, I will tell you that we certainly have conversations about, we do fairly well. And we're really proud of what our students and teachers accomplish, so why mess with it? Why shake things up? Why introduce this technology? Why make these changes? And so we do go through some conversations from time to time of people being nervous, people concerned about how this might mess things up. And we keep working with our teachers to emphasize that that this work is only going to continue to improve our success with students and with teaching and learning. And our pursuit as a district is about excellence, not perfection. And we have to keep communicating that to understand, because that pursuit for perfection is not possible. So it is about excellence. So that's a little bit of a background of Wilson and what we believe and those beliefs that really drive our work in this area. So I also want to share with you what have been some of our, what I call catalytic moments. Each one of you, hopefully you're thinking a little bit about where you are in your journey and can identify some catalytic moments that you've had presently or in the past, or what are some of those catalytic moments that we might create going forward to really get this work moving. As I mentioned earlier, we did the conference tour, but when I really take a look at what's been happening in our district, the best word, and I heard this used last week, we were at Discovery Education down in Silver Spring, Maryland, with superintendents from across the country that talked about really what's making this drive happening is it's organic. It's teachers, it's administrators, it's students. There's no one person. It's a collective energy of people that's building more and more momentum to get this done. We have, how many schools in the room are former or recovering CFF schools? We had the Classrooms for the Future, and I think we could all agree that it was great to get some of that cash infusion to get technology in kids' hands, but I think every one of us can say that some of the concern was, what's the sustainability in this? How are we going to, yes, let's get, the here and now, let's get the technology in the kids' hands, but what are we going to do 5 years from now when we're having to put charging cables to it and trying to do everything we can to make these computers going, especially with all the budget experiences that we've had over the years. So we've had also the pockets. I'm sure every one of you has the pockets in your districts, in your schools of implementation. And you'll see we have pockets. We have this teacher that's blazing trails, and another teacher here that's blazing trails. And then we have those that don't make eye contact. They just look away and they won't pick on you. And it's not that they don't see that this has to happen. It's just where they are in their learning, and they're a little nervous. So we all had the conversations about you have your 20, 30% of teachers or staff that they'll do anything you ask, right? They're always blazing trails. And then you have that middle pocket that they're sort of waiting to see, and they will join in if there's some positive momentum. And then you have another portion that's just kind of really waiting to the end, of what I call the don't make eye contact. And so that's some of what we've had. But in making this move, our teachers and our students and our staff have seen it. Yes, this is the direction we have to go. There's high support here. So with that high support, let's get moving. Another catalyst moment for us is when meeting with our technology department a number of times, and this was probably about 2-3 years ago, said, let's get an inventory report. What is our inventory report? How many devices do we have in this district? I don't know. Nobody could pull out the number. And it wasn't, it was just, that wasn't a criticism or a blame, but it was just we had been buying every year different devices, CFF, this grant, this PTO, that PTO, right? This benefactor, that. So we had all this technology of different things. We had Macs, we had Dells, we had Lenovo's, iPads. And so when we did the technology report, we were at 1-to-1. Now, we didn't say, round up all the technology, put it in the cafeteria, and we'll redeploy to the kids, because we have desktops, the 5 mocking desktop computers that might be in the back corner of the room with a black screen, real close together. We didn't do that, but what it was for us is a realization that we need to be a lot more comprehensive and a lot more strategic in how we're using this technology. And so that was a major catalyst moment for our work in this endeavor. And so there too, I ask you to go back. What does your inventory look like? Because I believe you're all closer than you think. I think it's also important we in our conversations we said enough with the why conversations. And this was reaffirmed last week too. Superintendent from Canada, I think it was Superintendent of the Year from Canada, and he reaffirmed this whole idea that we can no longer waste time talking about why. If people in schools or in society do not see why technology is important, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how you can ignore what's going on. And so we realized too that we need to stop having the why conversations and instead turn it to the what and how. And certainly affirmed through Stephen's presentation too about really now rolling up your sleeves and saying, what is it we want to do and how are we going to do it? We also approached it from, this is not a technology initiative, this is an instructional initiative. And that's important too, and this is not to slight technology directors in the audience. The technology directors and technology people in our district were very much at the table talking about instruction. And I will tell you, in the back of the room, Deb Motes and Ryan Fielding were an instrumental and integral part of our conversations and were major contributors to getting us on the path that we're on. And part of it is because they fully appreciated what their role was in supporting the instruction that was going on in the district. And so you'll see that we have our technology meeting. We have a curriculum department meeting, we have department chair meeting, technology director, Chris Trickett, he's there. Chris McCaffrey, he's there. So this is an instructional initiative. And lastly, we also recognize that this needs to be a team approach. And you'll see that as we team on the Keynote, as well as you've seen the stuff that's on the website. That's been contributed by a lot of different people. And so we very much believe that no one person can do this alone. And while there's a limited number of you here today from your districts, I think we can all appreciate how important it is to go back and build that team in your district of various stakeholders, representatives, to lead this work. And lastly, before I turn it over to George to talk more specifically within the high school, I'll share with you where we got to in saying where, with the what and how. There are two main things that we're focusing on: access and professional development. Those are the two main areas that drive our focus in this work. Yes, devices, as Stephen said, we have to make some decisions about devices, right? You did. Okay. But we wanted to make sure, and we kind of half kid with George as the high school principal, but going through this, George would make the statement, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. So we have figure with 1,800 students and staff, about, almost 2,000 people in this building. So I need everybody to press YouTube and be able to play at the same time. Now, which, I'm like, okay, George, relax. Would you have everybody pressing, play on YouTube at the same time? No, but it was very important, as Stephen said, with the internet, it is very important that we have really strong access both to the device and to the internet for our students and our teachers, because nothing will derail this more than frustrations that our staff might have in gaining access. And then secondly, as a major focus, and you'll see this at different things today, it's also indicative of why we're doing the Google Summit here and what we'll be doing throughout next year and into our middle school and our elementaries. While we're focusing on high school, this is district-wide, is looking at professional development. That's a major focus in our work here. About instruction, not on the device, about instruction. So with that, I'd like to turn over the next pieces to George to continue with the keynote.
If everyone could go to YouTube, hit play at this time, that'd be appreciated. Once again, this is our story. It's unique to us because we all have different situations, and I just want to describe ours a bit. We are a good high school, and that's the way we would characterize it when we were going through this process. Scores are good, community supportive, pretty content. And that was problematic for us because we see things coming. We have budget issues, we have an economy that needs a workforce that we're not meeting. So we started to get nervous. I became nervous as the high school principal, saying, yeah, we're good right now, but in 3 years we could fall to be an average to mediocre school very quickly. And one of those, you talk about those moments. I have a kindergartner, and he was sharing his Google presentation with me and emailing me saying, Dad, I need some feedback for this. Can you send this to the school resource officer? So he was doing a project on policing. And at first I was excited, I'm like, attaboy. And then I went, oh my God, these are the kids that are coming to us. They're coming. And here we are at the high school. Let's sit in straight rows. I'll tell you the information, give it back to us. That isn't going to work for very long. So for us, we needed some catalyst as well. And the one thing that we have here, and I'm boastful about our high school because they're a hardworking staff. We didn't get the pushback that you think you would have because they see it as well. The why conversation's over. It really is. It's over. We were a high school that was still 2 years ago saying no cell phones. We were handing out discipline for them. We were putting kids in school suspension because they took out their cell phone. Something that I watched my peers would do in a meeting. And I'm like, Dr. Gerhardt, get him. Get him and send him out. So when you think about those kinds of things that are almost institutional, we have to break that mold. And here we met with the whole staff and said, we want different results, but you have to change what's happening. It's a culture. The room you sit in a year ago was filled with bookshelves with no books on them. We ripped them all out. Things were changing so fast in front of us that we realized we need to move, but we had to change our approach. Also, computer labs. When you think about computer labs, it became a place where you got information, that's it. It was a location. That should be everywhere. Students need access to information very quickly. take out your cell phone and find it. That's what teachers started doing, saying, I can't sign up in a building of 1,900 to computer labs. That's not going to work. So then it started to happen organically. So there was some momentum there. But part of this was our pockets of innovation. We have them everywhere, but it started many years ago. This is a student website. It's for our technology and engineering department, which is part of our iSTEM program. We have this cadre of students that really took off, where we became one of the leading Project Lead the Way schools in Pennsylvania. Because we built this program for engineering, and students, I could hire a tech ed teacher every year with the amount of requests I get. Because of this program, because the kids see they want more. They went to Chris Trickett, who used to be in charge of this department, and they said, we'll make the website for you. Can we do this? Can we build this? Can we fix this? I look at Kevin Parks in the background, who's in charge of our technology that you see that's showing today. He was a student in that program. They were creating their own learning. They took the ownership. We just were slower than them to get there, if that makes sense. When we talk about our goals with this program, we also look at our AP achievement. You know, you want to see if you're growing your top and your middle and your high, but our advanced placement achievement has been increasing. And what we started to say is, we want kids, you know, that cool to be smart. Well, we look at enrolling in an AP course to have a C. If you can earn a C in an AP course, so if you're a teacher projecting out, recommend them for those courses. Now we have 1,900 students. I just got requests. I'm at nearly 1,000 requests for AP courses. Once again, really excited, you know, the initial yes, and then I went, oh no. The kids will come if we build it. They will. They want to be challenged. And that is our movement forward. They're going to drive us. If you also look at, we have some things in our school called our academies. We set up specialized areas where students can really accelerate their learning. But that's one of our goals with this instructional shift. It's about technology accelerating learning. We want to just speed things up, because we can't keep up if we try to go to conferences or get enough professional development. We see technology as a way of doing that. But we also realize we can't do it alone. It wasn't the four of us sitting in a room, Dr. Gerhardt saying, I have an idea. There was a lot of folks involved. So we took that team approach to our high school. We have a committee. We used to have faculty meetings. We don't do that anymore. What we did is we developed committees, a one-to-one committee, a use of time committee, in which, as a group, they are solving the problems that we identified as a staff. So in our one-to-one committee, before we even rolled out these the devices, we said, okay, what things do we need to work out? And it was run by teachers. It was run by teachers, and we had teacher liaisons that would report back saying, George, this is what we need. Here's some of our concerns. How can we get these things? Can you connect this technology? Well, what ended up happening is I would go to the meetings, Chris McCaffrey, Chris Trickett, we would sit there and we're taking notes on what we need to do to support them. And I'll tell you, they solved most of the problems before I even had to do anything, because they know what they need. And if you give them a little bit of freedom, they take off. It was also very efficient. I mean, we rolled out, we've had a 2-year pilot in which we gave a cadre of 9th graders. We went from 70 students last year, and now we have 140 students that are one-to-one. And we were learning throughout that process, and now we have, you know, the whole 470 students in 9th grade. How do we do it so fast with little issue? Was because of the efficiency of this committee and team approach. I didn't push anything down. They created it, Chris curated and put it on our website so everybody could see, and it became a really collaborative venture. And very transparent throughout. It's important for us to be transparent because we want our community to see this. Because you know, when we roll these out for 1,800, there's going to be some skeptics out there. So we want everyone to be able to see. We want our school board to see that. My wife, who has a kindergartner, wants to know what's going on. So we've got this whole gamut of folks that need to have information. But one of the most important things you see here is our kids. The team approach not only goes from upper administration to our high school, but also the students. This is about professional development. And we want to invest in our educators because we have to, it's an instructional shift that technology accelerates. So we've moved to an inquiry-based model of instruction, which really is about collaboration. And part of our goal is not to get kids to college. That's, as a high school, that was the typical, I want to get my kids to college. As a parent, that is not the job of our schools. It's to get them out of my house. I want them with a job. That's the goal. So in order to do that, what do businesses want? What do corporations want? They want kids who can think, solve problems, be problem identifiers, and work with others. Very rarely do you hear them say, well, I need this GPA, I need you to have this much body of knowledge. That is important, but it doesn't outweigh the rest. So in order to get there, we're investing in our teachers. We've brought in Asset Incorporated, which is out of Pittsburgh, to do our inquiry instruction. They do these, we've done about 5 days with them, but then as administrators, we're part of that, and then we supplement throughout the year. So our administrators and now some of our teachers are leading the instruction. So it is very important that we invest in our teachers because they will then believe in what we're doing. It becomes important. You know, we thought if we would just roll out our the Chromebooks and say, go get them, we know what kind of result we're going to get. It'll just be, shut your laptop. Just shut it. We're going to give you a lecture now. We had to shift that instructional practice. This is a project that's going to take some time. As Dr. Gerhardt said, we're early in the process. But it happens quicker than you think, I guess is the best way to look at it. It happens a lot quicker. And most of all, your kids will take off with it. I'm so proud of our kids, and you'll see it today. They already know how to do many of the things. They just don't know how to do it in school. That's where we come in. So hopefully when you're in our classrooms today, ask questions of our kids, ask questions of our teachers, ask your tour guides. Everything's transparent. We see you as now part of our team. So welcome, but also that means we're going to lean on you as well. So you'll hear us say, what do you think? What's your perspective? So, you know, I appreciate your attendance today. Hopefully you'll be able to come to us in mid-August for our larger symposium with instruction. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and enjoy. Thank you.
All right, I know you've been sitting a little while, so we'll watch a little video to get started. But while we're watching this video, I want you to think about what is the next big thing. Matt actually has a down camera. You can go up to a desk and use the down camera to see the work that's on the desk there as well. I saw another video of this, and they actually were calling, you know, the girl went into the bathroom with her girlfriends and talked, and she was a 4th grader. Really neat stuff. So with that theme of what the next big thing is, I'm just going to show a couple slides to you to think about some things. This is a contact lens. This came from a blog on Google about what the next thing is. They're blocked. And what this contact lens has in it is a wireless device, and it actually measures the glucose levels in the tears, and it sends a signal to your cell phone to tell you not enough sugar in your blood, or vice versa. That's crazy, all right? But then think about the implications of that, what that sensor can start to measure in your eyeball and detect cancer or something. I don't know, I'm not a medical person, I'm not a doctor. As Doug Dom calls me, I'm a bottom feeder. Matthew, we're the bottom feeders. Again, is this the next big thing? What is this? Anyone right now can go to this website. There's only the first 8 can get in. I'm already going to be in it here on my phone. But if you go to appear.in/corpmap, without any sign up, without any login, we'll be in a video chat automatically. You don't have to have an account or anything like that. So I'm going to get on my phone, so if you don't feel like doing it there, I'll also do it here. I may not get in because maybe someone else is already in there. You have to allow your camera access, or this website access. So there I am there from the Chromebook. You can see that. And some feedback. And you can see that we have already people in there. So that quickly I can talk and communicate and chat with 8 people. And I don't like Ryan, so I can actually kick him out. Well, it's been claimed by me. I'm not locked yet. You get the idea. Quickly and easily, I can communicate with people all over the world face to face in an instant. Up here, not in. Is that the next big thing? Now that just ate up all of our data. Or is it InstaBeam? Once this comes up, it basically is something you can put on your goggles, and Dr. Ruth would like this for his water polo. But basically that sticks right on your goggles and can send vital statistics to your coach and tell you you're not working hard enough. Come outside the court. I just need to refresh this. Google Chrome, which is the web browser we're using, Chromebooks, really has redefined the web because of the HTML5. And I used to be a computer science teacher, used to teach Cisco Networking Academy, so I have a little bit of the geeky stuff in me too as well. But the stuff that they're able to do now on the web through a simple web browser without installing anything is insane. The Chrome Experiments website shows you that capability. So people will always talk about, well, you can't do this on a Chromebook or on your tablet. You can, and it quickly keeps, that gap keeps shrinking between what you can and can't do. My son absolutely loves this site. Build it with Chrome. It's basically a Lego's building blocks. It's an interactive 3D. They can design their building. If you notice, it also is asking me for my location, because then you can actually put it on Google Earth and see other people's Legos constructions. So think about this for your kindergartners to help them with spatial understanding as well as geography and integrating all that stuff all in one spot. So that's Build It with Chrome. So I want to push back to you then, is really, this was the next big thing. And this is a visual of the internet. And that was made in 1969, 45 years ago. And the reason to say that, because all those things that I just showed you are not possible without that internet. Not because of the technology and the TCP/IP protocol stack and variable length subnet masking and all that stuff that the tech directors are really drooling over right now as they talk about it. It's not about the wires and the programs, it's about the people connected. And that's the powerful thing, and that's where I think we made the leap from who cares about the device, how can we get our kids connected and collaborating and working with people. Stephen showed a picture of 2 Malaysian girls with a Chromebook at the very last slide of his. I thought he was going to show the video, so I didn't show the video, I took it out. But Malaysia gave 10,000 schools, not 10,000 students, 10,000 schools in Malaysia gave Chromebooks, 3G Chromebooks to every single student in their country. Sao Paulo, Brazil just gave out 4 million 3G Chromebooks to their students in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So these kids are getting access, and they are hungry to do stuff with that access. So it's really important for us to understand the next thing, big thing isn't coming along, it's already here, and we need to help our kids learn how to use it. This is just a quick example of a Google Plus. My man Rich Kuiper showed up, he's in the back. Rich, can you raise your hand? He's number 2 Google trainer in the world. I always joke with Rich about that. But this is just interesting. We had a post by someone asking about Chromebook implementation. So Rich posted that out, plussed it back. I saw it. I said, hey, yeah, I'll be more than willing to share. And then that was at 8:17. Rich did that. I did it at 8:45 because my kids just went to bed. And then Kevin O'Donnell at 9:11 responded. And then Gene Carboni responded at 9:24. And then Practical Chrome, who's a group, said, hey, we can do a Hangout. And within maybe a half hour, an hour, this lady had plenty of resources. People were passionate about what she was asking, like that, pretty much. And that's, again, the key. We want to connect our kids to their passions and have them connect to other people about their passions, and that's where we'll get that 10 times that Stephen also spoke about. Because when it's passion, it's not work. It's what you like to do. And that's what we want to connect our kids to. And also the other thing I'd like to drive home to before I talk more about our breakout session of the professional development is Miss Kale. She's probably one of the best teachers I've ever been involved with. I actually thought about moving my son from Wyomissing to 5th grade just to have her real quick and then move him back to Wyomissing. If you go to that website there, the CT Hangout chat, that will be, again, this will be on the presentation. I think I already have it open, but there it is there. It'll take you to a list of the kids' essays. And I like to call them LOLs and PDAs. And LOLs is learning out loud. PDAs is public displays of achievement. Those kids wrote essays, and they're 5th graders, and here's one that I pull up here, I think it was Lexi's, that she made it authentic. I asked her last week would she like to do this. She turned it right around and made an authentic project for their kids and said, hey, who wants to do a hangout for this thing and write an essay about it to tell me why? These kids worked on it a lot, came up with good writing. And again, just to show you the cool stuff about Google Docs, if you're not sure, you can go revision history and actually see the process of the writing. And I actually could jump on here and see that Ms. Kale could give them some feedback right on her writing and make a change. And this is actually Dr. Burnham's daughter who was in the hangout with us. So again, because they knew they were going to be talking to you guys, they really wanted to do a good job. So they were learning out loud. They were doing some public displays of achievement there. And then what I kind of thought about then is when I started coming up with this Google site for this leadership symposium, I wanted to show off our teachers. And I said, you know what would be great is to have a repository for you to look at any time or share with other teachers that, hey, here's a teacher in 2nd grade doing some things. So this page started off looking like this. And I sent out an email afterwards. I probably should ask permission first. And I said, hey, I shared this out to a whole bunch of people who are doing this, blah, blah, blah. Do you mind if I put your link on our website? The next day I got emails, hey, check out my link. I just updated my website. Hey, check out my link. I just updated my... There was so much, learning out loud there, PDAs on these teachers, that I got a lot more out of those teachers on their products that they create for their students. And all of a sudden, Rich Muster's website looked beautiful. So again, by putting that public pressure and that learning out loud really helped the product come back. Okay, so I want to talk to you more about the breakout session that I'll be going with Rich Kiker and I, talking about curriculum design and professional development. As Dr. Gerhardt and George reiterated, we are trying to be as transparent as possible. So for example, this is a spreadsheet that we put together for this year for our pilot for one-to-one. And we looked at their loading levels. I'll explain levels of technology, teaching innovation in the session. But basically, we had to break our teachers out, just like I would as classroom, and say, what do they need? What do they need, and when can we get it to them? And we really had to really manage this in a differentiated instruction. And again, we made this public. We put this on our one-to-one website, this spreadsheet, so our teachers saw that, hey, I got Google Drive training, everybody knows it, I better know how to use Google Drive. Okay? And I'm not trying to hold anyone under a microscope, but I do want them to understand that, hey, there's some, we expect excellence, but we don't expect perfection. WilsonSD1to1.org is the site that kind of houses a weekly update on our one-to-one initiative. There's a lot of stuff here. Again, we did not make all this ourselves. I stole it from different places. Fond du Lac School District, Richland 2 down in South Carolina, Layton School District out in the Midwest, a lot of different places that we got this information from. And then we made it our own because we have a different situation. Project Red is a fantastic resource if you're not understanding all this or you really need to bring a board member up on board on this. Project Red is a great place to go. If you want to kind of see what we've been doing by week to week, if you go underneath the comments tab and go to updates, that gives you a week by week breakdown of posts that we've been making throughout this whole process. Obviously, last week we talked about this event here. We had a Teens and Technology presentation last week for our 9th graders, etc. So there's a lot of stuff here too as well for you to check out on the Wilson School District one-to-one website too as well. Another thing that I'll be talking about in this session too as well is the actual one-to-one action committee that George spoke of. And there's the easier way to get here. But basically, this agenda has everything you would need to know that we did with our teachers this past year to get ready for our 9th grade pilot that just started a month ago, which seems about 2 days ago, like I said earlier. So a lot of resources there for you. Hope you understand that, again, all we want our students to do is to connect to the web, collaborate, and learn out loud. So I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Chris Trades.
Okay, folks, I promise you will be done in about 10 minutes. We'll give you plenty of time to grab a snack, use the restrooms before we have to head down to our breakout session. We've heard a little bit about my background. I am new to this position, so obviously I was a little bit scared of helping the team organize this event, where essentially we're trying to encourage, support, and lead leaders. My background is purely from the educational side. I taught here for 10 years. I taught in middle school, I taught high school technology and engineering courses. I then had the opportunity to be an assistant principal at the high school for the last year and a half, and then recently, about a month ago, I moved into this role. One thing I can say with certainty is that my experience through working at Wilson, and especially my most recent experience as being assistant principal, has taught me a lot about what education can look like if it's done well, if the planning is put into it, if the teachers are supported, if the structure can support their needs, if their leaders are competent and provide them and with the resources and remove the barriers that they need to be removed. Overwhelmingly, I've learned that kids are better learners than us. Kids will solve problems in ways that we would never consider. Children that have grown up with the technology, children that have grown up in families that are different than the families that we grew up in, they've learned how to learn in different ways. I think all of us can think back to our childhood or even our teaching days for those of you that came from the classroom, and think of that moment when you had to let go of control. That happened to me probably my second year, teaching in a curriculum that I was unsure of, thinking that I knew all the answers. It was very clear to me that was no longer going to be the case. These are all pictures of students from around our district. All the pictures that you've seen so far, with the objection of the one with the child texting with a fake arm that Chris had, are all pictures of our kids. Not that our kids don't do that, believe me, they will. But it also showed me that they're the generation of now. I used to teach website design, and kids would go out and they would do queries or searches on the web. If websites wouldn't load immediately, what would they do? They'd go somewhere else. They're not patient. They're not tolerant. They want the information now. The information comes to them. Most of us, we still go and get our information. It's a very different world. How this ties into me and my role is I'm hoping through our district, as I know many of the other technology directors and people that work in the technology department today, will share in a general theme of focusing on the kids, focusing on what we can do to support the teachers, to support the leaders, to ensure that our kids have the best opportunity, and that our teachers, when they do take the risk that we want them to take, have success the first time, so that they take a second risk and a third risk. Because we all know that failure is the first step in learning. And we need to encourage that, and we need to make sure that the infrastructure, that the devices, that the cloud is accessible to our kids, whether they're here at school or whether they're at home. And that's a big reason that we're trying to put more devices, any device, in as many kids' hands as possible. Some things that I think we'll also talk about it and share in our breakout sessions later on is the fact that the confidence that people need to have. All of you in this room, I think there's a certain level of insecurity when it comes to your device. Someone next to you is probably better than you are at your device. Someone's probably better at diagnosing trouble or problems. Someone's probably better at bypassing the filter. We tried to make it easy for you to access all the things you need to access, but some of you still may be saying, oh my gosh, QR code, wow, what is that? How am I going to do that? We, as a technology department, as a group of leaders in districts, need to make sure that we support them. We need to do everything in our power to make sure that those things work, again, to promote that culture of risk-taking. The top part of this statement here speaks to the fact that there's also, I think, a time to change more rapidly now. We've always worked with pockets of teachers, pockets of professionals, pockets of students or parents who wanted to take the leap and do more for their school or do more for their business. And that's worked for us, right? Those are our pilots. That's what we do. You want an iPad cart, here you go. Here's Mr. McCaffrey, you have him for a week. He's gonna help you, he's going to support you. You wanna try the Chromebooks? We'll find a way to get you those Chromebooks. That's our role. However, now, at least in our district, and I believe it's true in many of yours, it's a little bit different. We're here, the kids are here, 6,000 students that have great needs for us and of us. And we need to now, I would challenge that we also need to start to lead some of those that are a little bit more reluctant. I think we need to develop capacity within our teachers to be teacher leaders. I think we need to build capacity in our principals. I think the role of the technology director, the role of the network administrator, support staff, we all have a role in leading those leaders that are in this room. We need to bring principals up to speed with the teacher effectiveness model and how those movements in the components or the domains can happen with the infusion of technology, with inquiry-based learning. Show them how they're all one and the same. And again, always with the mindset that it needs to work for the teacher. So we're going to talk about some of these things in our session. Our session is made up of 5 people running our session. Kurt, myself, 3 people from the technology department, our core team of people who help support the teachers and the students in our school. We're going to have a lot of conversations about what the different technology departments look like in the districts that surround us, and what the trend is, what you read about, what you see in the different frameworks that are out there, and what our true role is. We're going to talk about infrastructure. Obviously, we're going to talk about how we support a one-to-one. Many of you may have questions regarding that. What's the breakage rate? What do you do with a kid? Chris Trickett drops his device. Believe me, I've done that. I've dropped an iPad at least once here. Yeah. We need to make sure that kid has a device within 2 minutes. How do we do that? How do you do that in the schools that already have a one-to-one pocket? How do we ensure that within 1 day they get the same device back? Because we believe that if a child has the same device throughout their entire experience, they're going to take better care of it. What does that look like? What procedures are in place? What is the technology department? What have the principals done? How have the teachers helped? What is the role of the computer lab aides or whatever that role is in your buildings? We're going to talk a lot about that. We'll talk about the funding, brainstorm some different ideas that directors and whoever else attends the session would like to bring to the table. Lastly, before we cover the agenda, I want to reiterate the theme that you heard from everyone that spoke this morning. This conference is about sharing. We do not have the answers. I learned today in talking to Kent and Kurt that I think we need to evaluate here the bandwidth proposal that we have for next year. And actually, Deb and Brian sent out an email this morning as we were talking, and we're probably going to go through with an amended board update, sorry, Dr. Ruth, to increase our bandwidth coming in for next year. We feel good where we're at, but we're changing. I changed my presentation 4 times since this presentation started from my cell phone. There's a Google Plus event, there's a community, there's a Twitter feed, there's all kinds of things that are going on right now around the district that are all happening while we're all sitting here taking in the information that's coming to us. So please remember, I think Chris said it very astutely, that we should not leave here with questions. I have a lot of questions for a lot of you. I will ask them of you today in our sessions. If you have questions, ask them. Look through the information, take time to network with people, talk to people. Remember also that all this information is on the site that's on the back of your name tag. That name tag is yours. The URL is on there. Everything that we do, anything that you add to the moderator session, all those things will be uploaded. Any notes from our presentations, everything will be there, okay? A couple last things. Here's our general agenda. Again, it's on the website. We're going to try to stick to this as tightly as possible. We're about we're right on where we need to be. We're going to take a break here shortly. Remember, we have food back there. There are a ton of bagels. Please, carb load, add all the carbs you can. There's a lot of fruit. The fruit is very, very good. It's fresh, cut this morning. Water, there's juice. When you come back to this room in about an hour, there's going to be a whole nother table full of food. So please take as much as you can. We will have lunch back here. We're going to break out into 3 different workshops. At 11 o'clock, we're going to report to those locations, which I'm going to cover in a second. 12 o'clock, we'll come back here for lunch. 12:55 to 2:15, we're going to do our classroom visits. You'll be broken into tour groups based on the color of the sticker on the back of your ID. So if you flip your ID around, you've already been identified and put into a tour group, and I'll introduce your leaders to you at the culmination of lunch. At the very end of the day, I hope many of you can stay for this. I know you all have different schedules. We're bringing in teachers from around our district, elementary teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers. We're going to bring students from our iSTEM program, which has grown in success. I believe, Mr. Fiore, I think we're about 225 students that have signed up for the integrated STEM course, which is an accelerated program for our 9th grade students. Really, again, the pocket of the one-to-one pilot started with that group 2 years ago. So it'll be very nice for you to question them, and it'll be fulfilling to them to be able to share their experiences with you. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to try and wrap up and get you out here as close to 3 o'clock as possible. The breakout sessions, again, will begin at 11 o'clock. The leadership session, which will be led by Dr. Gerhardt and Mr. Fiore, will be in our staff development room or our boardroom. The way you get to that is basically you would go out these doors and you would just kind of wait down in the hallway out to the left, which is also adjacent to the restrooms, which we did cover. The restrooms are out there, the ladies' room and the men's room. So if you're intending on going to the leadership session at 11, about 5 of 11, you want to congregate in that area. The curriculum design PD session led by Rich Kiker and Chris McCaffrey. You're going to stay put, stay right here. And anyone who's interested in attending the technology breakout session, we will meet in front of the high school office, which is right by the large greeter's desk when you enter. Okay? Any questions? You can come up and see me. Here's some contact information about some of the people that spoke this morning. Okay, hope you have a great day. Grab some food on your way out.